Everything was going well until I added to this object. In this tutorial, I will show you how to create hard surface kit bash using Valence 3D, so we can use it on later projects to speed up the process. Add a tube, reduce the inner radius to 0.200 and change the angle resolution to 10. Switch to face selection and select everything, then move it on the x-axis. Switch back to the mesh selection and you will notice that the pivot point is still in the middle, and this is exactly what we want. Add a mirror modifier. Now select the face and extrude it. Delete the face. Select the edges and enable snapping by holding one finger on the empty space, then move it to the middle. Add loop cuts in the top and bottom of the tube. Select the new faces and extrude them. Grow select one time and create submesh. Change the color and back to the mesh selection. Duplicate it and move it away. For the next object, apply the mirror modifier. Go to face selection, select everything and move it on the z-axis. Add a new mirror modifier and change the mirror plane to z. If you need to adjust the position, go to face selection, select everything and move it. If you need faces in the middle of the mesh, select the middle edge loop and use the bevel tool. Now select the middle face and extrude it, then delete it. Select the edges, move them to the middle while the snapping is on, then move this object away. Insert a new tube, just like what we did earlier, 0.200 for the inner radius, 10 for the angle resolution. Move it away from the center. Insert loop cuts in the top and the bottom of the tube. Select the new faces and extrude them. Grow select one time. Create a new submesh and change the color. Duplicate it and move it to the back. Go to face selection, select everything and move it to the right. Add mirror modifier, select the first tube, select half of the vertices and delete them. While still selecting the half tube, select the other one and join them. Now extrude the middle face and delete it. Select the edges and move them to the middle while the snapping is on. Now when I tried to use the bridge tool between the top and the bottom faces, I ended up with 3 faces only. The face in the inside wasn't created. And it was a sign that my next step will crash the app. Okay, let's try it again, but this time extrude the top face only, then use the bridge tool. You can select the extra loop cut and dissolve it. Now select the face and extrude it. Delete the face, select the edges, then move it to the middle. And the third object is ready. Move it out of the way and add a new tube for the next object. Use the same settings, 0.200 inner radius, 10 angle resolution. Add loop cuts and extrude. Grow select one time, create a new submesh and change the color. make copy to use it later, which I should done on the first of the video. Now duplicate the first object we created earlier, rotate it 90 degrees on the x-axis, disable the mirror modifier and rotate it 90 degrees on the y-axis. In the edit mode, select everything and move it to the side. Back to the mesh selection and add mirror modifier. Change the mirror plane to Y. Delete the right half of the tube. And while still selected, multi-select the other object and join them. This way the mirror modifier will be applied on the tube too. Now add 2 loop cuts. Extrude and delete the face. Select the edges and while the snapping is on, move them to the middle. Select the edges on the other side and scale them down on the x-axis a little bit. Add a loop cut to the tube and use the bevel tool one time. Select the 2 faces and use the bridge tool. And adjust the shape if you need to. Duplicate the first object again and disable the mirror modifier. Rotate it 180 degrees on the x-axis. Add loop cut near the tube. Select the long faces and scale them down on the y-axis. Close the open face and add 2 loop cuts. Select the new outside edges and scale them up on the X and Y axis. Make a copy of this object and move it to the side. Duplicate it again. Rotate it 180 degrees on the x-axis. Now rotate it 90 degrees on the z-axis. Select the long faces and scale them up. Adjust the position. Insert loop cut. Now add a cylinder. Rotate it 90 degrees on the x-axis. Insert 2 faces on both ends and extrude them. Create a new mesh and change the color. Make a long version of it and we are done. Also, you might want to add more loop cuts around the edges if you want to use subdivision modifier. Everything was going well until I added to this object. What I did to fix it is the following. I saved the file, applied the mirror modifier, and used the repair mesh tool.